we saw how to join a member server or a client system to the domain. Good. So in this series, we're going to see how to work with Active Directory users and computers. So we'll be creating a user, we'll be creating an OU. So we will have OUs created, and then we create user accounts, and then we keep them into each department or into each organizational unit. So when we're going to test by creating some policies and then see how it will take effect on a member server. Okay, so let's log into my domain controller so that we can begin for today's lab. So let's continue. I'm going to log into my domain controller once again. So now I have now customized this system now. So now you can see when I switch tabs, you should see what I've done. So under this system, we have what? DC1, DC, and then its IP address is 192.168.0.1, and then its DNS, also the domain is king.local, kinwooslab.local, and then the RAM for this domain controller is what? 2 gig. Then we move on to the member server. Now we have a member. That one too, we saw that we renamed the computer name and we gave it what? PC1. Its address is 2. Its DNS is using the same as the domain controllers, and that is the domain that it has been joined to, and that is the memory also, which is 2 gig. Alright, so let's head to the domain controller. Then we will launch Active Directory users and computers as we discussed. So here we are now. Good. So this is the interface. So once it's launched, when you launch Active Directory domain users for the first time, this is the default you'll be seeing. So we have built-in accounts. That is where the administrative account is created. So you can see by default administrator's account, these are guest account, all these ones were created automatically or by default. Now any system we said joins to the computer comes under computers group. So any computer that will be joined to this domain or that will be joined to this domain controller will be appearing here. So you see that now this system that we call PC1 has been joined to the system, and you can see it appears here as well, DC1. Now the domain controller itself also will appear here. So we have multiple domain controllers, it will also appear here. That is the same as this one. So that is the domain controller. Good. And then these are some foreign security principles and other managed service accounts. Good. So under users, you'll be seeing all user accounts that have been created so far here. So you can see I have this user account here, and this is an account, if you remember in our part 1 series, we disabled that account, if you remember. Then we enable this account. So this is the account that is allowed on this system. So same thing applies to what we are doing. Good. So here under the kinwooslab.local, I'm going to create 2 departments. So we call it organizational unit. So you right click on your kinwooslab.local, you select new, then you're going to find what we call what? Organizational unit. So I realize that. So this is the first department. So let's assume this department is called staff department. So I'll put here staff. Then I'm done with this. I'm just going to stick to default here. Then I'll click on OK. Then I'm going to right click once again, new, and then organizational unit. This time around I'm going to call it, let's say, financial department, so whichever way. So name it any. So this ones that I'm doing here depends on the departments of each organization. So if you're an organization, if you have 10 departments, you have to create OUs for all the departments. So if you have 10 departments, so staff represents a department, financial OU also represents what? Physically the department in a physical company. So that's what is happening here. So what I'll be doing is that within the staff OU, I'm going to create user accounts in here. So these users, a policy that will be set on staff or finance, this will affect all members that found seat within what? The staff. So if a policy is set on staff department, it means that it won't affect anybody who is in the financial department. The same thing will happen when somebody will be in the financial department. He will not be affected when the policy is affecting the financial department. So every department, every policy that is set will affect only people or only individuals that are present in that what? OU. So anybody who is outside that organizational unit, when the policy is affecting every system, it's not going to affect that particular one system because it's not part of that what? OU. So that is what happens here. So now we have the staff and we have the what? The financial OU. So let's create 2 user accounts in the staff OU. So right click on that, then we select new, and then we can come in here. So let's assume that this computer that we have here as PC1, we want this computer to fall under staff because the person who will be using the system, this PC1, will be in the what? Staff department. So for that case, I can right click on this department or this computer, then I have an option to what? To move it. So if I click on move, it means that I'm moving it to somewhere else, and you all know that he said PC1 will be in the staff department, so I'm going to move it into what? Staff OU. Then I'll click here, okay. Now you see it moves automatically. So now you don't have the computer anymore here. So all computers that we joins to the domain will appear here. All right. Then you create departments. Then you move the computers according to each department one that you have created. So now we have moved the PC1 into staff OU. So now we have it here as what? PC1. So if a policy is going to affect staff, that means if a policy is going to affect this PC1, it means that that PC1 is going to only affect PC1 within what? That OU. Good. So now let's create 2 user accounts over here. So I'm going to select new and then users. Then here the user will be given accounts a name. So let's say the first name for this user. So you name it according to the requirement of your organization. So this person, I prefer to call this person user 1, and then the last name for this person is the same thing, maybe user. So give it a name according to what you do. Then always is preferable according to the requirements. So I would like all my department members, or I want anybody who is present within the organization to log in using their what? First name. So for that case, I'll provide user 1 because I want it to be the what? The first name. So the U is capital U, so let's do it accordingly. So it means if you want to log in over here on the member server, so what we are doing, we are trying to be that this system here is what we are trying to do. So this user is going to log in onto this what? This client system. So it is the account we are trying to create so that we can manage this user. So now we are done. The person can just log in as this. You provide the username and then the password we are going to provide now. You can type user 1 as the first name and then it provides the password, or you can type user 1 at kinwooslab.local and then provide the password and it'll be good to go, or you log in as kinwooslab/user1 and then the password and then it'll be good to go. So which these 3 methods are ways that you can log in on a member or the client system. So that is it. Now let's proceed to set a password. So I'm providing a password for this client system. So it means if there are 1,000 members that will be present in this tab, or you create them individually, then you set a unique password, and this password, you set an identical password or the same password for all the members, that for all the accounts you'll be creating. Now you leave it as you are seeing here. When you set it to user must change password and let's log on, it means the default password you're going to set for all of them. You tell them that they should log in with their first name and provide this password that you are giving them. So the password is password at 123. So that's the password I've given to them. POP at 909. That's the password I'm going to give to this. Everybody who fall in here will have the same password. So I'm going to tell every staff member that log in with your first name, then you provide POP at 1990 as your password. Now this is set simply means that right when the person provides my password and tries to log in, they are going to request the person to provide what? A unique password for him or herself. So the person has to change the password I've given. So that's what this one means. When I uncheck this and I check the second one, you can't check the two at the same time. It's not possible. You have to check one at a time. So I can also specify that the password will never what it cannot be changed. This means whatever password I'm providing here becomes a permanent password, of which we don't prefer doing that. So this also means that the password will never expire. So this password is never going to expire. And then you can also disable the account. So option 2, when it's enabled, other things can. So when an account is disabled, that means that the account cannot be used at all. So we prefer that the person should provide a password after providing the default password that is given to them. So now we proceed. So now the password has been created for this user. So we have user 1. Now let's create another user. Same user, and then we're going to call this also user 2. User 2. This person will log in as user 2. And then the password this time around you go for cannot change password. So this means the password you're providing should be permanent, of which we really don't want that to happen. So I'm going to disable the account so that we see what happens when I try to log in with this account. So now the account has been created. So you can see there's an arrow pointing down which tells us that the account has been disabled. Good. So let's see. When I double click on any of these users and I will move on to member of, you realize that anybody who is joined to domain will be a member of domain users. And when you are joined as a domain user, it means you have limited privileges. You can't perform any action as an administrator. That is one aspect of what we are going to manage this user in such a way that when this user tries to perform any administrative task on the client system, it's going to deny that, or it's going to request the person to provide the information of the or provide the credentials of the administrator before that permission will be given out to that person. If the person is not able to provide it, then the person will not be able to gain access to it. So that is it. So now that it is created, let's try to log in on the client system. So now account has been created. So we are going to log in as user 1. Now as I said, if you remember, I said that you can log in as user 1 at kinguslab.local. Let's try that one first. 3 ways. So let's try all the 3 ways. So for that case, I'm going to sign out. So I've signed out via member server. So we're going to test the users that has been created. So other user, then we log in as user 1 at kinguslab.local. I hope it's right. So let's cross check. So we said user 1 at kinguslab.local. That is it. So you can log in as this, the first name of the user at your domain name. Then you provide a password. So this is the password that was given. Now right when the password is provided and the person clicks on enter or submits this password, the system will tell the person to provide a new one. So you see, it says the user's password must be changed before signing in. So you have to change the default password I gave you to your own password. So now the person is setting his own password. Now this password shouldn't be the same. Even if you try to provide the same thing, it's not going to work. So now that you've been able to provide a password, then you can log in. So you see how it works. Good. Then we can log in. So now when we cross check from here, you realize that we have logged in as user 1. So that is the account you have logged in with. And still you can see we are in user 1 now. But when I move to DC, you can see very well that we are still in DC. So you can see DC, that's 0.1. So that's the member server. Now let's see the second means if you want to log in. So another option. So that's the first approach. So we said you can either log in as the user 1 at kinguslab or kinguslab/user 1. So let's try that one too. So this one to other user, then we type kinguslab/ the name, which is user 1, and then the password. Already you have changed the password already, so they will not ask for us again because you have already logged in with it, so they won't ask us to provide a password again. So, and then lastly, you can also type only the first name and then the password. So let's try that one as well. So I'm going to sign out once again and sign in. So just type user 1 and then provide a password. So now that is the 3 means in order to log in with this system. So now let's see whether this person can make adjustment or make some changes in here. Assuming this person or this client system wants to make changes with the password, or sorry, with the IP address that has been given, it is not possible for this person to do that because the person is a member of our domain users only. So domain users has limited privileges. What do I mean by that? It means you can use anything that falls under control panel. Anything that requires administrative permission from here is not going to work for you. Now let's say, as we said, that control panel, we can go for command prompt. We said we should run command prompt as administrator. That is going to grant you administrative privilege. Let's see what happens. Now you see, the moment I click on that, is asking for the domain username and password. That is the domain controller's username and what password is. This one. If I'm able to provide, then I can perform this task. So a client system is not possible. It's not possible for this member system or any client system user 1 here to perform this task because it's limited. It has limited privileges. So that is one aspect when you want to manage what users. Now let's see if the user wants to change the IP address. Let's see if it's going to work. So you can see the person can check the IP address that has been given. But let's say this person wants to make changes. You see, so anytime it's going to give you this prompt that you provide administrative what password before you can be able to gain access. So that is what happens. So depending on the requirement of organization, if it is not stated, then they give this person limited access. The person doesn't have to get access to this because when the person does, he will make adjustments with the IP address, and that happens, that client system will not be able to communicate on the network. That is one reason why it's not advisable to grant this person full control to have access to whatever is here. So by default, all users when they are joined to the network and they are trying to use any account created in Active Directory users and computers, by default they have what? They have domain users what? Privileges, which means they can't perform any administrative tasks on their system. So that is what happens. Now in our organization, depending on the requirements, there's what we call login hours and login to. Let's start with login hours. Now when I log in, when we go for login hours, this is it. This interface has two options. We have login permitted and login denied. When any of the options turns white, it means it has been denied access. So you can see the person can have full control, or he has full, anytime he comes to work, this user can be able to access the system at any point in time. So if I have an option, I can just click to select. Assuming we don't come to work on Sunday, so I can select everything, then I can deny access. I can Saturday, so assuming we don't come to work, or the company doesn't work, or your company doesn't work on Saturday, you can deny that one also as well. And then you can specify maybe from Monday, when a person comes to work from 6 to 8, so we'll assume we start work at 8, so all these hours will be denied. So what I've done simply means when a person comes to work, no matter how, even if the person comes to work so earlier, the person should be able to use the system when it is what? 8 a.m. So when it's not 8 a.m., the person should not be able to use it. Currently, our time is 6:49 a.m. Yes, that is what we have here, 6:49. So if it is 6:49, that means this person should not be able to log into the system because of this policy that we have set. So you've seen that. And then when it is 4, all these hours to, when you're still at work as at this time, then you can't be able to use any of these systems. So you come to work at we start work at 9, then we close at what? 5. So depending on the requirements of your organization. So here It means this person will only be able to have access to this system when it is what 9. Now it's 6:42. So this person should not be able to what to have access. So I'm going to execute this, apply, and then we test to see if it's going to work. So let's sign out from this account. So remember, policies that want to set on the system, it has to be set before the client system or before the person comes to work, or you do it after your day work. So now let's log in to this user account once again and see. Now you see, now it says your account has time restrictions that prevent you from signing in at this time. Why? Because we stated that when it is not 9, the person will not be able to log in. And here it is what 6:43. So the person has to wait until 9 a.m. before he will be allowed to what or permitted to have access to the system. So that's what this one does. But remember, when you select everything like this, it means that you have, and then you go for login permitted. That means you have granted the person access. Even no matter when the person comes to work, the person can access everything up to 5 p.m. or up to 5, whichever way that is stated, up to 5 p.m. whichever way. So let's execute this and apply. Instantly it takes effect. So this time around, let's try to log in and see if it's going to work now. Now you see the person is now in there. A person can access it now because we said that the person is now having access till 5, and now it's 6, but the person can access it. So this is done midday and then midnight. So that is it. So that is that aspect. There's another option called log on to. Now with the log on to, you can see in here what it's saying is that by default, any computer that is joined to the network, no matter whoever the user is, that user can log on any of the systems. So if you have 1,000 computers in organization, you have 1,000 users. If one of the users is not available, you can choose to go and then what log in on the person system using your details. You use your first name and then your password. Log on any of the systems, it should work fine for you. But if you don't want that to happen, depending on your organization, we are saying that staff members should only, assuming we are saying that the person should only have the name what we're providing here. So if the person is trying to log into the system, the person should bear the name that we are typing in here as a computer name. If the system the person is logging in doesn't bear the name you type here, the person will be denied access from logging on to this system. As one aspect when you want to limit users to log on to a specific kind of what system. So assuming I want this person to log into DC or DF, and we all know that there's no computer having the name DF, but there's what DC. So now let me click on OK and apply this time. Let's see if when this person or when user 1 tries to log in, it's going to work or the system will permit this user or not. So let's try again. Good. So the person is in now. You can make this adjustment. So okay, the following. Do you know why? Because we didn't add it. So you have to add first. So add, okay, and then you apply before it takes effect. So now let's try again. Don't forget to always add before you apply. If not, whatever you do won't take effect. So let's try again. So now you can see it says your computer is configured to prevent you from using this PC. So it means you are not allowed to use any other system apart from a system that has or that bears this name DF, of which you don't have it. So that is one aspect if you want to limit users to a specific computer. If I remove it, then the person will have full control. He can use any system to log onto. So that's also one aspect that you could use there. So apply and then what? Okay. So assuming the person is not working with us again, or there's been some misconduct of this person, so we want to hold his account, you can decide to disable the account. So now you can see the account has been disabled. So if the person, after everything is done, we can disable to what? We can decide to what? Enable the account. Now assuming user 1 has created his own password. You don't admin, you don't know the password. Now the person has forgotten the password. Now when the person reports it to you, you can't tell the person the password he or she is using. But what you can do is that you can reset the password. So you can right click on this option here, pick the user you want to reset the password, then you have option here, reset. Then you provide the general password that was given to the person once again. Then you allow the person must change the password at the next log on. When you do that and you provide a new whatever password you type in, you give to the person. When the person provides this password, they will ask the person to change the password to what? A new password of his own. Now when you try to log in with user 2, it won't work because you have denied user 2. So let's try to do the same thing here. So when I disable the account from here, this user cannot log in. So let's try to log in with this user 1. You see, it says the account has been disabled, so you should contact the administrator. So if something should happen or the person leaves the company, we have to disable the account. Now we leave it disabled because we are going to hire a new person, assuming the person leaves the company. When a new person joins the company, all we need to do is to use the same privileges that has been given to this user, rename this and give it the first name of that current person who comes in. Or you can double click on this user, make adjustment, provide the first name, the information you have provided, so that this person will still be maintained in the same OU. So that is one reason why it's best to leave the account. Any account that is disabled should be kept where it is. So this is also another aspect. So that is one good thing. So these are the basis of using Active Directory domain services. So in our next session or in the next part, that is part 5, we're going to see how to work with what we call group policy. So we're going to set policies in order to restrict these users using the OUs that has been created. Because we said that when you are in a department and a rule or a policy is set to restrict that OU, then whoever that found him or herself in that OU will be affected with that policy. So we'll be seeing that in our next set of series. So stay tuned and we will meet in our next video. See you.